Brought to you by Basecamp Ed. I'm Morgan, your host of the Homeschool Curious podcast. Whether you're deep in the homeschooling world or just starting to get curious, I'm here to bring you inspiring conversations with parents, educators, and business owners navigating the wild, wonderful world of parenting. Let's get curious together. On today's episode of the Homeschool Curious podcast, I have Adrian Edward joining me. He is the founder of Color Me Mozart. Adrian has always been an early supporter of Basecamp Ed, and it truly means so much. When our business platform was ready to go, he was a beta tester offering great feedback. I stopped by his booth at the Great Homeschool Convention in California to introduce myself in person and was blown away by his curriculum. Not only was Adrian such an outgoing and friendly face, but I got to see firsthand how much thought and effort has been put into Color Me Mozart. In today's episode, we chat about his unique journey into music and entrepreneurship and how early music education can play a vital role in shaping resilient, adaptable young minds. Today's episode is sponsored by Basecamp Ed, a community building app that is free for parents to find local, like-minded families, dedicated teachers, and educational resources. Connect with parents to form your own co-ops, playdates, or groups. Need a math tutor or a sports coach? Teachers can list their credentials. There is also a business platform to discover game-changing educational brands. Take control of your child's educational journey. Visit their website at basecamped.com or download it in the App Store. Homeschooling was never meant to be done alone. It takes a village. Build it with Basecamp Ed. Today on the Homeschool Curious podcast, I have Adrian here joining me. He is the founder of Color Me Mozart. But just give us a quick introduction, a little bit more about you and your background and how you got into music.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, Morgan. I really appreciate being here. My name is Adrian Edward, and a little background just to my life in general. I was born in Argentina, in Buenos Aires, and grew up in New York and became a musician roughly my teen years, then did music education up till today. And then founded Color Me Mozart, which we'll get into obviously a little later. And now, currently, I live with my wife in North Carolina in Wilmington, and we just absolutely love it here. So, yeah, Argentina, New York, Wilmington. So it's been quite a little transition there.
So have you always been into music? Like, were your parents also musicians, or how did you learn the love of music?
No, so here's the curious thing. I didn't even know, this is almost embarrassing to admit. Like, I wasn't even aware of music till I was a teenager. And the only reason it was kind of brought into my life was in high school. I had to choose between an elective, an art class, or a music class. And my dad, he was a painter. My grandfather was a sculptor. So there was a lot of art in my family, just not music per se. We had a piano in the house that nobody played. I think my sister took a couple lessons, but it was just non-existent. You know, when something's not present in your life. And I had tried my hand at painting. And the way my dad was so passionate about painting, we would go to museums all the time, and he loved Degas and Dali and Manet and all that. And it just wasn't what I had inside of me. And so I was like, you know what? I tried painting. It wasn't quite my thing. Let me take a music class in high school. And I don't know, the best way I could explain it, it's such a new phrase to me, but I love it. It was like love at first listen. Once I saw the written music on the page, and once I saw that I could create sounds out of the piano, I fell in love immediately, and here I am to this day. Like, I just never stopped. So I kind of came late into the game, but that's how I kind of fell in love with music at that age.
When did you start Color Me Mozart, and what motivated you to do it?
So going back to my dad, besides being an artist, we'd always have great conversations about life, right? Learning. So he instilled in me at a young age of like always being curious about everything, question kind of everything. Well, not only just the simple things like a child would ask, like, why is the sky blue? But like, why do we get up at 8? Why do we go to work? Why do we just question life in general? And so that always put me in a position of loving to learn. Like, I've said it since I was a teenager. Like, in my journals, I would always write like, oh, today I learned this. Today I read a new book and kind of understood this. It was kind of like an obsession with learning. And then the other side of that is being from Argentina, but growing up in New York, my parents only spoke to me in Spanish. So I am fluent in Spanish to this day. So learning a second language set up for me when I was young, that idea of I can learn something new. Look, I know how to speak, read, and write Spanish. I never went to school for it. It was kind of, I kind of assimilated to it because it was part of my surrounding. So as I grew older and as a musician, I was very, very interested in education, right? And to this day, I love imparting knowledge, kind of that mentoring to other, not just students, but like friends that I have. If they ask me a question about music, I love that the art of sharing what you know, kind of like passing on that tradition. I was a preschool teacher for 10 years. I was a special needs preschool, a music therapist. And at the time, I noticed that on the children's IEPs, which is their individualized education program, they would include occupational therapy, speech therapy, things like that. And music therapy, for those listening that might not know, it's not so much about learning music, it's using music as a therapy, which is very effective. But I found that a lot of these kids were being underestimated. They actually could learn patterns, knew their colors, knew their shapes. Even if they were nonverbal, they can point to the right things. And so I said, you know what? Let me try something. I had a little xylophone there in my office. Let me see if I can color code some construction paper, laminate it, and put it in some type of order for them to play the first few notes of Twinkle Twinkle. And I put it in front of them, and I'll never forget that day.
So nothing like that existed. The first time I met you, I was just a mom walking around Great Homeschool Convention in California, and I saw your booth, and we had connected on Instagram like months before. You were like one of my very early followers. And I stopped and I was like, I have to talk to him and introduce myself. And your booth captivated me. Even if I had never heard of you, I would have stopped. The way you had it presented and how you showed you get a keyboard and you do the colors and the shapes, like that didn't exist before you.
So here's the funny thing. When you buy most xylophones, the idea of there being color-coded notes is not new. What's new for
Yeah.
us, what I didn't like, which that's a conversation for another day of things, issues that I have with other educational things in school, because I went to public school. So I have a couple of things that I wish were different. But what I noticed in these xylophones that would come out, so yeah, they would have color code, but they would just stop there. It was
Yeah.
so basic and infantile. And so I was like, wait a minute, we don't need to stop there. These children can certainly learn how to actually read and play music. We're not trying to trick them into just doing, oh, play these colors and these sequence and you're good to go. You're done. We're going to stop there. I felt like that again, that was very underestimating what they were capable of. And many times, especially in the special needs community, we underestimate and don't push them to their actual potential. And so that's what was kind of secretly driving me to pull this out of these children. And so what's completely new is taking those shapes and colors and eventually going step by step until they read actual music notation. So that is completely new, and I had never seen that before. And I'm like, well, we got to do this.
Another thing I learned the day I met you was that, and I can't remember the age, so you're going to have to tell me that the recommended age that you suggest children start learning, it was so much earlier than what I had thought or anticipated. And then you saying that you didn't learn music till a teenager, I'm like, oh, phew, I'm not behind. Because like, I do want my kids to learn. And I think they're older than the recommended age you had already suggested. So what is an ideal age to start your curriculum or just learn an instrument in general?
So I'll say this caveat before anything that I'm about to mention. Going back to my love of learning, I'm a firm believer in the growth mindset. You can learn anything at any age. So all that I'm about to say is just ideal in something that the more I've been reading, the more I realize the benefits of learning something early. So the answer is any age you can learn. So it doesn't matter. Our parents, you, your kids, it doesn't matter. You can learn at any age. However, what I have been learning, and through my own experience from learning Spanish, that's why I use the Spanish talking points so much, because it was
Mm-hmm.
something that happened to me. It might not have been music, but it was a second language as if
Yeah.
it were something like music. Like I said, I never went to school for it. Grew up in Brooklyn from a very early age. Even though I was born in Argentina, I was never raised in Argentina. I grew up in Brooklyn. I know how to read, write, and speak Spanish to this day fluently. When I go to Argentina, my accent is so authentic, they wouldn't even know I'm from New York. So that shows
That's
you.
crazy.
And I say that, yeah, I say that. It blows my mind. When I hear myself speak Spanish, I'm like, who is this person? I don't even know. But it cracks me up because that just proves everything that I'm reading now, like about the neuroscience of how our brains work and why learning something early is of most benefit to the child. So, with all of that said, the ideal age really is, and I know this is going to sound ridiculous, 0. You've probably heard, who are pregnant with your children, that they're like, oh, play music for them, play
Yeah.
Mozart. In reality, not that the type of music matters so much, but now it's being proven. I'm reading all these amazing books by like Daniel Levitin and Oliver Sacks and Susan Wright. These are all neuroscientists that specifically deal with music. And they're figuring out that even in the third trimester, they can already recognize your personal intonations and vibrations. So that's why your children would respond to your voice and your voice only as a child. And that already blows my mind. So that
Yeah.
means that's it, even from day zero. And the reason I say day zero is because let's think about it from a perspective of learning language. You, as a mom, would never say, well, learning English and grammar rules and things is quite complex. So, you know what? I'm going to wait till my child is 6 years old to speak to them, to teach them how to recognize letters. That would be inconceivable. We start language from day one. So, the answer to music is play lots of music in your home, different styles of music, sing to your kids, clap with your kids, stomp with your kids, dance with your kids, all those things because they develop the rhythms that they're going to have forever. As for music notation, it parallels exactly language itself. Roughly what a child starts recognizing their ABCs at maybe 2, 3, 4, start putting letters together to form words. So our program is mirrored exactly when a child would be learning those elements of language. So roughly that 3 to 6 range. We've also made it as easy as learning the ABC. So that way parents like yourself, and I'm not sure if we haven't talked on, I don't know if you are a musician, but if you're not, you can use such small building blocks in the same way that you're not afraid to teach your kids the ABCs. You're not sitting there
Mm,
going, I don't have a degree in literature. I can't teach my kids,
yeah.
nouns from verbs and adjectives. You just speak to your kids and hey, let's spell cat, C-A-T. As adults, we're constantly reinforcing those basic elements of language. So in a nutshell, that's when I would recommend learning the language of music as far as reading and playing. But listening to and different styles, that's from day zero.
You mentioned you don't know if my husband and I are musicians. Both my husband and I, we had a grandfather on each side that was a professional musician. My grandpa played the bass, and his was a professional singer. I never grew up learning any instrument. I tried to do guitar in college. I like really wanted to. That is so hard to pick up. I should have probably picked an easier instrument first. I was also older and busy, but like I would have loved to have some sort of musical background. Like my husband and I have 3 boys, and we do see that they are very interested, but I don't know anything about music. You actually kind of jumped to one of my questions for parents who maybe don't have a musical background. It seems like we could still use your curriculum and basically learn together with the child.
Part of my passion for being at the school, one thing is for your kids to come to school and have a teacher teach them. But what I wanted was, hey, I want this to continue at home. So how do we make this simple enough for parents to be able to continue this at home? So to your point, and for everyone listening, I might get a little flack from other music teachers, but the dirty secret is music is really not that hard, right? If you come to think of like most of the music that you hear on the radio is not done by like conservatory trained musicians. A lot of these famous musicians, let's say somebody like a Coldplay, my guess is that Coldplay did not go to, he's from England, so he didn't go to the Royal Conservatory of Music and get his degree in composition. No, they're a garage band that kept playing music. And so music is a lot friendlier than we made it out to be. And that's part of the things that I talk about with parents when they come up to the booth is something happened in the past 100 years where music has become a very kind of I don't want to say like professional, but it's been like, no, we have to get a professional to do this for us. And there's huge value in that. Obviously, just like you eventually send your kids, either whether you do homeschool or a public school, you eventually send your kids to get curriculum that's outside of your expertise because we
Yeah.
reach a limit. So I'm not saying there's no value that kids don't have to get lessons. That's not what I'm saying at all. But those first few years are completely doable by parents. 100% doable by parents because the rules of music are even simpler than the rules of language, and parents crush it with that with kids. They read to their kids. They like we said before, they tell them what the letters are, their numbers, their shapes. They do basic math and things like that. Right? You don't go straight into calculus in the same way you wouldn't go straight into Shakespeare, in the same way you wouldn't go straight into Beethoven and Rachmaninoff. No, you go with the very simple, hey, this is a C on the piano. Let's go play all the C's on the piano. That is so extremely basic and rudimentary that it breaks my heart when a mom or dad tells me, "Yeah, we sent our kids to lessons when they were 4 or 5, but they didn't like it, so we quit, and that's it." And my heart just like breaks. I'm like, but that's the wrong approach, and not
Yeah.
because it's not their fault. That's what they've been told. They need a music teacher because I don't know music. We've gone astray, and that's become the new norm. And we're trying to reset that norm to have families enjoy music together. And yes, then when you finish a program, for instance, like ours, we set you up enough where you and your child can read basic, the first like 8 notes in music, and then they are ready for a private teacher or
Mhm.
more developed curriculum to take it to that next level. But absolutely, any parent that's never had a lesson, that's their time now to shine and learn music. And with all that said, with all the technical stuff, it is the most fun you will ever have as a family. Doing music together, especially now since we're so obsessed with devices and being distracted by our phones and this and that, the fact that you can create acoustic in-person music from acoustic instruments, nothing beats that. Nothing. It's amazing.
That is amazing. Walk me through your program. What a parent should expect day one if they purchase your curriculum. Like, how long is the program? How many days a week do you suggest? How long each day? Like, just kind of tell me a little bit more about the curriculum overall.
Yep. So the entire program itself lasts for 2 years. So it's modeled after like two curriculum years, 9 months at a time. So then you take a break off, a summer. But like with most homeschool curriculum, if you need to go a little slower or faster, that's fine too. Basically, the way we approach it is one lesson a week. They're all pre recorded lessons of me teaching the lesson and is 100% as if I was in the room there, exactly what I would do with that child. We start with sing along. So we make sure there's body movement and singing along. Then we learn about different instruments. We cover almost 40 different instruments because I always want kids and parents to know what different instruments sound like, what, a violin sounds like, what a French horn sounds like, what a electric bass, like the bass that's on my wall here, like hearing those things, developing also an ear for when they listen to music on the radio. The parent could ask the child, "Oh, what instruments are there? Oh, yeah, I hear the drums. Oh, there's a guitar solo. Oh, there's this." That is active participation in music that gets, and we'll talk about that in a little bit about the amount of brain activity that happens when a child does active participation in music. And so then we go into the actual lesson itself where we start learning about notes. And again, we limit it to middle C to high C, which is only 8 notes on the keyboard or on the xylophone. So we're not doing a huge scope. It's not like we're going straight to Beethoven or anything crazy. And then we practice those within the structure of a song, like Mary Had a Little Lamb. We do use nursery rhymes, like Wheels on the Bus, Jingle Bells, things like that. So that's something else for parents to consider. The reason the program isn't ideal for older kids, not because it won't work, but because usually once a child hits 7, 8, 9, they might think Mary Had a Little Lamb is like for babies, so that's what might happen. But then some
Yeah.
parents will tell us, oh no, but it's actually cool because our older one will want to help their younger siblings. So we've seen that
Yeah.
happen a lot. And we do recommend the family doing it together. You don't need to do it separate. If you have a 7-year-old and a 3-year-old, everybody do it together. We have stickers for keyboards to follow along. And then the end of each lesson, we also do a sing along to wrap up. So every format of every lesson is about the same. They last between 20 and 30 minutes, and you do one a week. And then
Ooh.
within that lesson, I tell you exactly what to practice. Oh, don't forget each lesson has worksheets to do, coloring things, playing things, listening, homework, things like that. And so that way you have the entire week to kind of enjoy music. And just like language, it takes a while to absorb things in music, like mechanics and stuff like that. So you don't want to rush through it. There's no gain in rushing through doing it, but it's about one lesson a week, half hour at a time, and a couple of worksheets and some practice. So it's very, very reasonable within time. Even
Yeah.
if someone has a crazy schedule, this isn't this is going to take up half hour of every day of your week. Not at all. So it's totally, totally doable.
You're probably targeting the homeschool community, but music is not really learned that early in school either. So this could be something that any family with young children could purchase the curriculum and do a Saturday afternoon together. It really doesn't take that much of the family's time.
No, absolutely. And it's funny because we have schools in New York and California that use it, and a lot of like co-ops use it as a group. Even if it's not specifically a homeschool family, even if it is like a family that is in public school, it is totally doable. Because this might not be a good business move for me to say. This isn't about finding the perfect curriculum. Yeah, I always appreciate companies that are honest. This isn't about our product is the best out there, and if you don't do our product, it's not going to work. Not at all. I just always encourage, to your point, listen to as much music as possible. There's so many great resources. Just adding music to your family's life. And most families will tell me, oh, we listen to a lot of music. But then when I really kind of like push them a little bit, I ask them, well, do you listen to blues? Do you listen to salsa? Do you listen to Indian raga? And they're like, well, not really. We listen to kind of, Coco Malone. So That's Coco Melon, if that's how you pronounce it. Like that's my gripe with families
I was
is
like, are you trying to say Post Malone or Coco Melon? I wasn't
you're right.
sure
Oh,
what
that's right. That's what
avenue
I'm
you
pronouncing.
were.
Coco Melon. There we go. Can you tell how much I don't like Coco Melon? And
It's not
and
good.
and
It's
again, not good. And it's just listening, and it's the same redundant, non-diverse style music that's out there. So the child is being fed one type of music the entire time, and that is
yeah,
dangerous. So that is
yeah,
not good because their brain is not developing different neural pathways for different styles of music. They only fall into the category of listening to one type of music as much as they think, oh, but it's a lot of different songs and a lot, but they're not. It's the same exact style. They need to hear authentic and different. And this goes for the parents too. It will benefit them. You'd be surprised how much beautiful music there is in the world, and you don't have to like all of it. Exposing your children to it. Now, I will get a little into the neuroscience of things.
yeah.
The amount of proof now of how much of your brain lights up when you're listening to different things and trying to process, oh, I don't know that rhythm. I've never heard that rhythm. One of my favorite neuroscientists, his name is Oliver Sacks. They made a movie, The Awakenings, about like the effects of music and dementia. It's really fascinating. And so he went even deeper and deeper. And his quote is the fact that the rhythms that we hear, now get this, from 6 months to 12 months when we're infants, are the rhythms that we feel most comfortable with for the rest of our life. So at first I'm like, that's impossible. That can't be true. So I started thinking, you know what? Not only he's got the science to back it up, but even in my own life, even though I was born in a Latin country, I didn't grow up dancing. We didn't do like what other Latin countries do, like dance salsa, dance samba, dance cha-cha or anything like that. So when I would try to dance, I had to take salsa lessons, and even that, it didn't come naturally to me. My wife, she's from Venezuela. She grew up dancing her whole life. It's like second nature because that's
Hmm.
exactly what they grew up with. And when I would go to these parties, I'm like, look at that guy. He's like, he'll take out two women and start spinning them around, and no problem. And he never took a music lesson or anything in his life, but they grew up with those rhythms. So clearly, if a child grows up in India, they do well with the what's called the raga rhythms and scales and things like that, and they sound foreign to us because we're not used to them. So all of that to say, that exposure when you're young is what develops children into having all these parts of their brain light up in such different ways and gives them kind of like a head start for the music that's to come. And then by the time they listen to Coco Melon, they won't want to listen to Coco Melon. I'm telling you right now,
Yeah,
because it'll be
yeah.
so utterly boring. I know I'm harping on them a lot, but it bothers me that they're so everywhere. But I just want parents to expose their children to more diverse rhythms out there.
I've heard that before. Obviously, very young children love that kind of music, but my husband and I don't like listening to that. On a Saturday afternoon, we're playing our favorite kind of music, which is like Coldplay, and he loves old rock, and I
Yeah.
love country. We're
Yes.
playing all of that. And then, like you mentioned, the boys will ask if there's a short instrumental with no singing. They say, "What is that?" Like, "Oh, that is the guitar." Or that, and sometimes I don't know. Like, I know for the most part, I
Yeah.
actually don't know what instrument that is, but then we Google it and we learn together.
That's awesome. You guys keep doing it. That's the way I teach when I do teach private. I always ask students what they want to learn, because the opposite
Yeah.
doesn't work. Like, I'm not going to impose what I want them to learn. And so sometimes they'll come out with stuff and they'll be like, let's do some Rolling Stones, whatever. And I'm like, where did you get that from? Oh, my dad and my mom, they listen to. So you guys keep
Yeah.
doing that. You're killing it. That's the way to go. Definitely do that.
You mentioned earlier in the conversation that it breaks your heart when a parent will say, "Oh, I put them in piano lessons and they stopped going after a few weeks." But maybe they bought your curriculum and the kids are either resisting because they find it boring or whatever it may be. Like, what advice or tips do you have for parents to keep continuing?
I'll always make the parallel to language, right? I've never
Yeah.
heard ever in my life that not once a parent use the example, well, we tried to teach our kid how to read, but they didn't like it, so we stopped. That's not a thing that happens. So I think that's what I meant before. What we're expecting out of music and where it's come in the past, I want to say about 100 years, has shifted culturally not in a good way. We're expecting like, well, it's a passion, and if you're passionate about it, you'll naturally gravitate towards it. I'm not a big fan of that's the right path to anything, right? We don't put kids in sports just only if they're going to be the next Messi. The idea is they need to learn teamwork and discipline, all these things. So even our program, and I would say this for any parent that's putting their kids in private lessons, they could have a conversation even with their teacher. The goal isn't necessarily for them to come out loving it in the first beginning, and then if not,
Mm-hmm.
stop teaching. You just need to change your approach. Just listening to music, different styles of music, and have sing along and clapping along and going a little deeper and going next to the keyboard and be like, hey, you know what, can you play me all the D's on the piano? Great. I think the expectation of what we want out of it has grown so dysfunctional that when we don't see that level of like, they didn't really like it, we're going to let it go, is that's why it breaks my heart, because now you're missing all the other benefits. They don't necessarily have to come out playing. Even when people ask me about what's the goal of the program, we have specific goals because we like metrics and for parents to be able to chart progress. Our goal is to be able to read from middle C to C, play some very basic songs. But perfection is never the issue, ever. We're not expecting them to be sit there with their hands perfect on the keyboard and play perfect in time. In the same way, we don't expect them, a 6-year-old to get on a soccer field and be able to dribble through every kid and plow. If you've ever been to a kid's soccer game, it's like little groups, it's like little bumblebee.
Yeah.
They call it bumblebee. It's like, because I've coached kids soccer, it's like they just go around the ball. They don't know what they're doing, but but we're not expecting what's
Yeah.
unrealistic from them. So it might sound terrible advice, like lower your expectations of what you're expecting your child to get out of music. We turn on Instagram, things like American Idol, and we see the best of the best. Oh, my child started when they were 5, and this little kid on the drums going crazy on Instagram or playing piano. I see them all the time, but that's the exception. That's the exception for all of us. I still play soccer. If I obviously I don't, I'm not even close to being professional, but that's not going to keep me from enjoying a lifetime of sport. And I think the same thing is we're so conditioned now to like, well, they didn't really take to it like a little American Idol kid. So therefore my kid, it must not be in them. I'm not going to force them to do it and have terrible memories. For that parent, I would say lower your expectation, but in a great and healthy way. Just enjoy music again. Buy a record player. Now records are so in vogue again. That's what we did in our home. We sit and we just listen, and that you listen to it at the speed of music and put on different styles and enjoy it again. And I guarantee you, if you present music like that, the way you present language to your kids, you read them stories in bed, you make things fun. The idea is to make music fun again. So, and it's nothing on the teacher. They did nothing wrong. It's the expectation of what we expect from it.
Maybe this is just me speaking for my own children. And because they're so young, they're still attached to me. So I couldn't imagine dropping even my 5-year-old off and saying like, hey, I'll pick you up in an hour. You're doing piano lesson. I do see that if me and his little brother are sitting and watching your lesson together for 20 minutes a week and mommy's learning with them, it would be more enticing and exciting for them than a drop off piano lesson with a stranger that they don't really know and
Yeah,
they're not comfortable with,
yeah,
especially
they've
when
never
they're
met
that
that person,
little.
right? They never met that person before. And also, too, I'll tell you personally, parents, when they hire me to be a private teacher, they won't really ask me, well, how do you structure your lessons? It's not a thing. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not their fault. But you just hit on the best point, and it's something that I missed before. If your kids see you enjoying music, just like anything else in life, they'll love it. You don't need to, and even for our lessons, you don't need to plow through the entire lesson. You could pause it and then do the next section the next day. Like you could do the sing-alongs one day, you can do the instrument the next day. It's not a matter of you're going to sit down and do all 20 minutes now. Like that's
Yeah.
not what music is.
Yeah.
And to your point about a private teacher, when they do go to a private teacher, they do have to sit there. They don't have any choice, whether it's a half hour, 45 minute, or an hour lesson. You're going to sit there from beginning to end and you're going to like it. And that just makes no sense to me. I just don't understand that.
I want to kind of flip what we're talking about just a little bit in the conversation to your background as a founder, because I think so many homeschool families are very entrepreneurial and some start their own businesses, or the mom who stays home wants to find a side hustle to help make money while they homeschool their kids. Just like the early stages of starting, what were some challenges that you might have faced?
So, like I said, we're from Argentina. My parents are very entrepreneurial. However, what they brought with them, since it was a new country for them, they didn't know quite all the ins and outs. So I learned from them how to kind of run a business, the amount of work that it takes. But when it came to like the nitty gritty, yeah, it is very overwhelming at first. And even if you go online and you go to YouTube and watch like how to's, it's still such a barrage of information that it could be overwhelming to the point that you're like, you know what? It's too much. I'm not going to do it. But for anybody listening to this that wants to start a business, I will say two things. Number one, we live in a time that it's easier than ever. If you have any idea at all, follow it, because as much as they want the kind of the system wants to make us believe that, well, everything's so saturated, there's no room for any, that is kind of thinking in the wrong direction. That is 100% not true, because most of the world right now is a spectator. And so these are conversations we used to have with my dad, and also too now with all my circle of kind of entrepreneurial mentors that I get together with, is that most people, unfortunately, we fall into the spectator. We grab our phone, we watch, we doom scroll, we do all these things. So as much as you would think, oh, there's so many people doing, the amount of people actually putting quality content and quality products out there is much less than you think. So if you have an idea, number one, I want to encourage you to go for it. And two, with the understanding that, yes, it is a lot of hard work, and those get rich quick, where you're just going to like, hey, I put up my website today and all of a sudden 1,000 people visiting. And I can, you watch those Instagram reels. It's like, I shipped like 1,000 products yesterday. Yeah, that's, those are lies. And anybody that tells you different is trying to sell you something to get you to buy something. Whenever they tell you, in my simple course, I'll teach you how to 10x your business in a week. Yeah, run from those people. I will say this, be extremely humble in asking questions, because most of us are either at the place that you want to be or further ahead. And so I found that if I'm very honest with people and I say, you know what, I don't know how to do this, people are really excited to help and help you get past that stage, as opposed to trying to act like you have it together. We live in a day and age of like posting the best of what we do and, oh, I got it all together. That doesn't really work in my experience. When I'm in a humble position of like, you know what, I don't understand this. Even this past week, I'm good friends with a very successful gentleman at church, and he's retired and he loves mentoring people. He said, oh, you should reach out anytime you need help. And I'm like, you know what, absolutely. And he tells me the same thing. He goes, the amount of people that tell me they're going to call and don't call are so many, because I guess they're afraid to admit that they don't know. I have zero problem with that. I've always been very transparent. I'm like, I don't have it all figured out, but I'd love to. I'd love to get where you are. So seek out those people that are further ahead. The worst they can say is no. You have your Basecamp app. Let's say it's somebody that has 1 million users reaching out to be like, you know what? I'm having a little trouble scaling. What did you do to scale? The worst they can be is like, oh, well, I don't like to share that information. But I guarantee you 9 times out of 10, they'll be like, oh, have you ever tried this? And they'll always throw a nugget of wisdom. So I would say those two things. Go for it, and then reach out to people and ask them 1 million questions. How'd you start your business? How'd you form your LLC? How did you set up your business account? Believe it or not, there's not that many steps, but talking with someone that knows and has been there will save you so much heartache. So for instance, one last thing I'll say on this topic, if you try to mix your business account and your personal account, that becomes a nightmare for your accounting later. So even if you don't have sales yet, it doesn't matter. Set up your LLC, get your bank account. That way, even if your income is still zero, when you get to the end of the year, you have your things in place, because eventually your income will not be zero, and you'll have your ducks in order. Prep as much as you know how, and then be very humble about what you don't know.
That is great advice. And I have found that, like, even through starting the Homeschool Curious podcast, I have founders like you who are successful and have started their business, and I learned so many cool tips and tricks. And now I have contacts. Now I'm still talking to the people that have come onto the podcast. And so, like, I truly feel so lucky. I never dreamed that as a new homeschool mom that just started like 3 weeks ago, because he started kindergarten, I have so many homeschool moms that I could just text now and be like, hey, my son's doing this. Like, I have so many great mentors, and I feel so lucky for that. So my last question for you, for somebody who maybe is listening today that has had a passion or an idea for something, what's a good first step to turn it into their venture?
I would say the first step is get some quiet time, which I know now is treasured like diamonds at this point. I would say take an actual notebook. I don't know if this is going to be on video, but I have a physical notebook. So nothing tied to the internet. Shut your phone down. Yes, you're allowed to shut your phone. It is a possible thing. It is doable. I promise. The world will not stop. So I would say grab a notebook. If you have a busy, life with young kids, ask your spouse, I just need a few hours, go to a coffee shop or whatever. And then write things down. Write as much as you know down. I'll never forget in the beginning stages of this, and I love investing and things like that. I remember I would literally write things in my journal that I would say, I don't understand what I'm writing down, but I know one day I will. And so you don't have to understand every answer. So I would say first write down what your idea is. What problem are you trying to solve, right? Because sometimes we think, oh, I have a great idea for a product, but maybe it's not a problem that actually exists. That makes it a lot harder. Not that you shouldn't do it, but maybe that makes it a lot harder. What pain point are you trying to solve? What I tried to solve with Color Me Mozart was, like you mentioned before, prior to private lessons, there's not really much music going on in family life, in school life, whether that's public, charter, homeschool. It's not something that existed. So I was like, this is a good place to inject what we're doing. And a lot of people would be like, are you going to do older programs? Well, no, there's a lot of great programs for that. We're going to focus on preschool. So I would say do that, write it all down, and then take an actionable first step, which would be get that domain name for your website, right? So let's say whatever that name is, basecamped.com, get that. That's very important. Open an LLC, which is very, very important. And then a bank account. Those three things, I know you said one step, but I think those three steps would be enough to start solidifying your idea and turning it into something real, and also telling yourself that you believe in the idea enough that you're going to take that next step. And that kind of takes you the next step forward. Whether you're a churchgoer or, like you said, in your homeschool family circles, start asking, hey, does anybody own a business? Does anybody own an LLC? How do you do this? How do you pay yourself? How do you do your taxes? Just start asking questions. People love sharing what they've been through, as I'm sure you do, as I love to do, because I'm also grateful for the people that have shared their expertise with me. So sorry, I know you said one thing, but that was
yeah. No, that's great advice. And then my last question for you is, how can parents connect and find you? You always are posting really good research and videos about music and Color Me Mozart on your Instagram, but where else can everyone find you?
Yeah, so our main website is colormemozart.com, and across all socials, we really focus on YouTube and Instagram. Like you said, Morgan, I'm there all the time. I do want to make sure people have access to us. That's always been one of my goals as a company, that they can reach out to us. I want them to feel part of a community, that they can reach out to me. So I am there every day. And if they want to write to me personally, it'll be me that's responding, because I know it's a lot to take in, but absolutely. And then if I can encourage all the parents, go listen to different styles of music today.
Good. This was such a great conversation. And I will put all of the links in the show notes to how to reach you on your socials and your website. And I really appreciate you taking the time to come on today.
Oh, thank you so much, Maureen. It's really been a pleasure. I'm really grateful.
This has been a production of the Ultimate Homeschool Podcast Network. If you made it all the way to the end, you are amazing. Thank you for listening and your support. Let's stay connected, and here are my tasks for you. Subscribe, like, and share on your favorite podcast app or on my website, basecamped.com. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook at basecamped app, and go download Basecamp if you haven't already. Leave a comment and spread the love.